Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Lainey. Hi, Grace. Hi,
Hey.
Virginia. Hello. How
Did
are
you
you?
say hello to yourself and then welcome yourself? I
And
appreciate that.
I answered myself too.
I love that.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Writers to Watch. We're so glad you joined us tonight. Thank you. We are excited to be together and on this chilly October night. Before we bring on our authors, we need to do a little housekeeping. We'll do a quick couple of things here and then we'll jump right in. First off, we have a sweepstakes to tell you about. You all see that? Okay, so this is enter for a chance to win a copy of Brett Baer's book, To Rescue the Constitution, for your public or your school library. So we're calling all middle school, high school, and public librarians enter for a chance to win a copy of this book by Brett Baer. 150 libraries will win this book about George Washington's indispensable contributions to the founding of the United States. We have extended the entry date to October 20th. So in the chat, Grace, is that right? In the chat, we'll have the link that folks can click on, copy, do whatever they do to enter.
We'll be putting that in there.
Okay, cool. So you just have to, fill out the name of your library and it's all very self-explanatory, very easy to do it. It's a fabulous book, and we really want to gift this to libraries. Libraries. I just put the emphasis on libraries instead of libraries. Anyway, so that is number one. That's New York Times bestselling author Brett Baer. So there you go. That is right in the chat. So take advantage of that sweepstakes. Okay, and what else do we have to talk about? Grace?
We have another installment of Galley Gab Fest coming up this Thursday at 2 p.m. And we are going to be talking upcoming books, stuff that we haven't talked about before. And you know us, it'll be fun. It'll be playful. You might have a poll about what kind of, we already did pasta. What are we going to do this time? Pizza toppings? I don't know. You'll have to come and find out. So that will be 2 p.m. Eastern Time, October 12th.
Okay.
Pepperoni. That's what I would be. Okay. So we have a romance panel. We're very excited about this. We got together with some other publishers. So it's a multi-publisher buzz. We're going to talk about some romance books. I'm going to be there to give you the scoop. And then we have 4 exciting romance authors coming on to tell us a little bit about their upcoming books. And as you can see, we have Tessa Bailey, that's our author. And I mean, needs no introduction. We love Tessa Bailey, and she has a new sports romance called Fangirl Down coming. So I've already read it. Have you? You can get the eGalley and come to this really cool event. So you get a little bit of a buzz, you get some author talks, it's a little bit of everything, and it's not just our books. So we're very excited. Source Books, HTP or Harlequin, and Hachette will be there with us. So come join, and that link will be in the chat in just a second. Bookmarked by Lainey. So if you haven't heard, this is a new thing. I have a new website, and I just talk about books that have sung to me, a little bit of, some of them are off the beaten path a little, or ones that you just can't miss. Some have library focuses like Lore of the Wilds right there on the left. Rainbow Black, I know Grace is super excited about as well. So you can go there and see some books that I'm reading, ones that I'm jazzed about, and then we'll put these on social with just a little bit, but you can go to the full link, Bookmarked by Lainey, to read all of what I have to say. It's not super long, it's a quick read, but it's also all categorized by color coded. So by genre, and you can go click, horror or nonfiction or etc. So it's a really cool site. I'm very proud of it. It's like my little staff reads shelf essentially, but ones that you can read quickly about and either download, or just like Library Reads, they say if you can read the annotation, that's one more book you know a little bit more about when you're at the service desk. So it's a little bit of reader services. So I hope you check it out.
All right. And do check it out. It's just fabulous. All right. Grace, I think you're going to.
We want to talk about the bright spot for just a second.
Yes.
Okay. So just quickly, within the hour, we got the news that Jill Shalvis was unfortunately not able to join us, and she wanted to be here so bad. She's a big library proponent, and she just sends her love. So I'm so sorry that we won't be able to hear from Jill, but hopefully in the future we're going to hear more and maybe have Jill on some other event. So don't worry, we're gonna talk about the book a little, and then maybe you'll hear from Jill, but not tonight. But we have two lovely authors, so stick around. But quickly, I'm gonna never be able to fill the shoes of Jill Shalvis, but I can tell you a little bit about her book. So you're excited. The eGalley is up, so you can go read it. And I'm just gonna quickly tell you a little bit more about it. It's her 5th book in the Sunrise Cove series. You don't have to read them in order. You can read them at any time. They're connected by place, not sequentially. So this is about a woman named Luna who kind of helps a menagerie of animals at this Apple Ridge farm in the Lake Tahoe, area in California. And so she has this farm that she works on, this menagerie of animals. It's also kind of for people in her life who, she never found her right spot. So she has a lot of people around her that she's kind of taken in and given jobs. And she has this kind of grumpy boss, and he doesn't come down much, but then she finds out that this boss has passed away. She goes, she finds out something. I won't tell you what that is, but she also finds out that she's 50% owner of this farm now. She also finds out that the farm is very much in debt, and she has to fix that very soon. The other 50% owner of this farm is going to be one Jameson Hayes. So of course, now we get our proximity. They come together to try to save this farm, and kind of show him the ropes. He doesn't really know what's going on, but he's trying to come in and save them on the money side. So it's super fun. She does a really great job of balancing the emotional and the funny. There's a really sweet grandmother who likes to use very contemporary terms, but maybe not in the right way, and try to figure that out. So that's super fun. And all of the people there are just like really heartfelt, and they're looking for their place. So it will also be in a library hardcover edition. It comes out in January. And yeah, so again, we apologize that we aren't able to have Jill, but hopefully we will have her on again soon. And yeah, that's a little bit about the bright spot. The galley is up. eGalley is up.
Thanks, Lainey. Yeah, we were sad to hear that this wasn't going to work out tonight. And as Lainey said, she really does feel terrible. She's just not able to do this tonight. And but it would be super fun, and we'll let you all know if we can have her on in the weeks to come. So without further ado, Grace, drum roll. Melissa Rivero.
Our first author, Melissa Rivero, who I am very excited to intro. Melissa, you may come on screen, grace us with your presence. Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for being here. So I'm very excited to have everyone hear from you about FLORES and MISS PAULA. But first, I'm going to tell them a bit about you. You are the author of The Affairs of the Falcons, which won the 2019 New American Voices Award and a 2020 International Latino Book Award. The book is also longlisted for the PEN/Hemingway Award for Debut Novel, the Center for Fiction's First Novel Prize, and the Aspen Words Literary Prize. Born in Lima, Peru, and raised in Brooklyn, she is a graduate of NYU and Brooklyn Law School. And I'm also going to put her website in the chat where you can find out more about her, things she's written. And I will let Melissa talk about FLORES and MISS PAULA, but first I wanted to read a beautiful quote from Etaf Rum, author of A Woman Is No Man, about FLORES and MISS PAULA. She said, "Deeply compassionate and tender, Melissa Rivero's new novel paints a striking portrait of the mother-daughter bond with wisdom and empathy. In alternating chapters, we see an immigrant mother and millennial daughter unfold and evolve with stunning depth. Melissa is a phenomenal talent who combines authenticity and a bold, fresh voice to deliver raw, unforgettable women/characters not to be missed. So without further ado, Melissa, do you want to tell everyone a bit about your upcoming book?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. First off, I just want to say thank you to the librarians for really being the caretakers of stories. You allow so many of us to discover a multitude of worlds, and that is a true gift. So thank you. My novel, Flores and Miss Paula, is about a mother and a daughter who are redefining their relationship and their own identities. It's been 3 years since they lost Martin, Paula's dear husband, and Flores' beloved father. The pair lived together in Brooklyn in the same apartment where Flores grew up, but they are being forced to move out. And so now they have to confront all the things that this brings up. Flores is a first-generation Peruvian American. She's in her 30s. She's single. She works at a startup that sells fish and aquarium accessories. Very exciting. She has a lot of school debt and debt that she took on when her father was diagnosed with cancer. And so most of her identity is really wrapped up in her work and her profession. And she's so focused on paying off her debt because they have to move and because it's been sort of this cloud that's been hanging over her for many years. Paula her mother is in her 60s. She and Martin immigrated to the US from Peru. And so she's lived in Brooklyn for decades. She works at a discount store, one of the last of its kind in their neighborhood. And even though this job was a way to keep herself busy after he passed away, it's become more than that. At the same time, she's gotten closer to an old but still married friend, something that her daughter doesn't necessarily approve of. Both Flores and Paula start to take another look at their relationship to their job, again, their identity, and to each other. Martin was in many ways the bridge between mother and daughter. And so when he died, they lost a vital connection to each other, which was very important considering how different these two women are. They also have this connection to their neighborhood and their Peruvian community, but these connections seem to be disappearing rapidly with gentrification. And as the older generation either moves back to Peru, they become ill or they pass away. And so there's really a deep sense of the two of them trying to hold on to that as well. Ultimately, they have to decide if they're going to continue to live together and, more importantly, how they're going to live their lives. I wrote most of this novel during the pandemic. At the time, I was still working and I was at a startup. And frankly, I missed the office. I missed office culture. I missed my coworkers who had become friends. I was juggling Zoom schooling my kids with a very demanding job, an in-house legal job. But the isolation and sadly the friends and family that we were losing both because of the pandemic here in New York and back in Peru, and then how everyone who came into my neighborhood was promptly leaving it if they could. All of that, somewhat surprisingly, brought back some of the feelings and the memories that I had when my own father passed away. And so this novel isn't afraid to look at loss. I frankly don't think that we can ever come to terms with a significant loss in our lives, but we do have the ability to live alongside the grief. And Flores and Miss Paula is one exploration of how a mother and a daughter do that. So thank you. I look forward to hearing about your thoughts on the book, and I hope you enjoy reading it.
Thank you, Melissa. And for those watching, let me tell you, if you love a character-driven novel, this is for you. I can't praise it enough, but we are going to hear from Benjamin.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Benjamin. I should note that Benjamin is coming to us from Australia, where it's not 7:17 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. How are
I should
you?
have led with good day.
Yeah.
Very well, thank you.
Well, good day to you. Good day to you. Well, welcome. It's so great to have you on here with Melissa. This is just really exciting. So let's a brief introduction before we ask you to talk a bit about your book, Everyone on This Train is a Suspect. So Benjamin Stevenson is an award-winning stand-up comedian and author. He has sold out shows from the Melbourne International Comedy Festival all the way to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. He has appeared on ABC TV, Channel 10, and the Comedy Channel. He is the author of 3 novels, including Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, which was a Library Reads pick in January of 2023. It was critically acclaimed, received a starred review from PW, and received wonderful raves from authors. And this from Maureen Corrigan of the Washington Post. She called it a witty twist on classic whodunits. Stevenson not only plays fair, he plays the mystery game very, very well. His forthcoming book, which we're going to hear about tonight, Everyone on This Train is a Suspect, is coming out in January 2024. It's a fiendishly fun, locked room murder mystery, this time set on a train full of mystery writers, agents, editors, and fans. Welcome, Benjamin.
Thank you so much. And just before I kick off, I just want to thank, libraries getting books into people's hands and sharing the read has been amazing, especially down here in Australia. Seeing tags from libraries on social media and stuff is always such a wonderful thing. I always wake up to social media notifications. That's one of the advantages of being down here. So it's a real thrill. I check my phone and I got libraries tagging me and stuff. So that's been really fun. So thank you for sharing it. My new mystery, Everyone on This Train is a Suspect, is a follow-up to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. The main character from that novel, Ernest Cunningham, has written a book of the event of the previous book. It's complicated, stay with me. Anyway, so he's now a crime novelist. He's always loved mystery fiction. Part of the thing of Ernest's character is that he is a guy that really loves golden age mystery fiction, Agatha Christie, Ronald Knox, G.K. Chesterton, all those classic mysteries. And Ernest loves those books so much, and then he finds himself inside the mysteries that he loves. So now he's an actual crime writer, having written a book of his own, and he's been invited to a crime writing festival, which is taking place on the Ghan, which is a famous and very fancy train in Australia that runs right down the middle from Darwin to Adelaide and back again. And he's really excited to be on this because he thinks it makes him a legitimate author, and he's trying to write his next book, which will be fiction. On this train are 6 of the world's most renowned crime writing royalty. There's the forensic thriller writer, there's the legal thriller writer, there's the literary award winner, there's the psychological suspense writer, there is the blockbuster Scottish mainstream popular writer, and then there is Ernest himself. And out of the 6 of them, we get a glimpse into the behind the scenes egos of publishing and the practices of publishing and all of the kind of clashes and humorous things that happen between authors, as well as on the train, a couple of publishers, some agents, a very obsessive fan club, and a few more interesting and mysterious characters. During the ride after the first night, one of the authors dies. Ernest takes it upon himself to try and solve the murder, to use it as inspiration for his next book. Between the 5 surviving writers, they all think that because they've been researching murders for their entire lives, they might have the individual specific skill set to combine into one real detective. So the forensic pathologist can do the forensics, the psychological can profile the suspects, and Ernest brings them all together and wants to pick their brains. The problem is that if everybody knows how to solve a murder, then surely somebody knows how to commit one. So the question Ernest is faced with is, how can he find a murderer in a train where everybody knows how to get away with it? It's a really fun locked room mystery. Like I said, Ernest is a really fun character. It's light, but it's also a great mystery at the same time. So it's a little bit of fun. I think that, you know, the playing fair thing that was mentioned in my bio is really important to me. Mystery novels are team efforts between the writer and the reader. So I'm not here to trick you. I hope that I can surprise you with twists and turns and a fun ending that catches you by surprise. But I'm not trying to trick you. We are a team. So it's about solving the mystery together is my book. And I hope there's enough tantalizing clues that it's a lot of fun to sort of play along with the mystery as it goes. Also, being a second novel, it's a standalone sequel. So it features some returning characters from the first book, but it absolutely stands alone. But I have a lot of fun with the fact that it's a sequel. So Ernest, again, his character trait is that he knows that he's inside a mystery, but in this one, he knows that he's inside a sequel. So in the opening chapter, he talks about how much sequels are often rubbish, and he hopes he doesn't fall into the same trap. And the way that I tried to avoid that was I listed everything that I think, or I hope people liked about the first book, and I just raised it to the next level for the second. So if you like Golden Age mysteries, this one has more puzzles, more suspects, more red herrings, more anagrams, more code solving, all of the fun stuff that comes into these novels. So I really hope you love it. And also I love toying with publishing. It was super fun to just go behind the scenes of it. You know, my Australian publisher pitched it recently as Yellowface meets Knives Out, which I thought was super fun. So if you want to see some of the nitty gritty behind the scenes stuff, then this is a good little window into the real world of publishing as well. So I really hope you love it. I really hope you solve the mystery alongside me, and I can't wait for you to read it.
I love how you say you're not here to trick the reader. I love that they're, you know, you're sort of on this ride together. That's kind of, that's a great way to put it. Thank you, Benjamin. Thanks for that. I always find it hard to talk about anything that's got, even if it's not a mystery, but just, you know, something that's got a twist to it or a big reveal. It's often, I find, hard to talk too long with an author because it's so, I'm so afraid I'm going to blow it, or I'm so afraid, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's always tricky. I had a long conversation with Laura Lippman years ago when she had written this book that had a great, well, all of her books do have a great reveal, but boy, was it tricky. Anyway, thank you for that. Appreciate it. So Lainey and Grace and Melissa, do you all want to come back on so we can all just sort of chat with each other?
Yes, I think Melissa somehow got out of the Zoom, so I'm just trying to find her, but continue as yeah. Continue.
Okay, well, she'll come back.
Yeah.
Now
Maybe there was a connectivity issue.
Here's like the perfect mystery. So first there were 3 authors, and there were 2, and then there was 1. I think, Benjamin, while we're trying to get Melissa back on, I would love to talk to you a little bit about the train, the luxury railway, the GAN, where you set this, where the Mystery Writers Program is taking place on here. So obviously a tip of the hat to Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. So 2 questions. One, how much of an influence did her work have on your writing? And the other question is, we talked before we started, and I asked you if you been on the GAN, and you said yes. So I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I tend to take influence from the sort of overall vibe of the Golden Age. So that kind of 1930s, all of the authors at the same time. So even though this one is set on a train, it's not like there's no specific influence from Murder on the Orient Express specifically. It's more about the locked room mystery. So, you know, John Dixon Carr, the way that he about locked rooms and everything, and the train is just a perfect natural suggestion of the locked room mystery. The great thing about it is any author who writes a locked room mystery will tell you the problem with the locked room is that you can't move anyone anywhere, which is very frustrating when you're writing a novel and you've got 80,000 words to fill and you can't move people around. The great thing about a train is that it moves them for you. So you get to have the breadth of the novel, and particularly the GAN, it has these amazing landscapes that it goes through. It starts in the tropical kind of climate of Darwin, then it goes through the scorched red dirt desert of Australia, and then it winds up in the lush greenery of Adelaide and South Australia, which is all dairy farms and wind turbines and beautiful beaches down in Oz. So you get all of that, and you get a locked room. So it's really, really perfect. But I was very conscious when I was writing it. I thought of the idea, and I thought I'd love to do this, and I think it will be really great. And obviously a tip of the hat to the great Agatha Christie. And I sort of plotted it out, and then I put it in a drawer because I thought there's no way somebody hasn't thought of this before. It's too good. It's too good a location. And then I tried to find a book that was similar, and I couldn't. I'm like, wow, nobody has used the GAN. And now I have to write it because somebody's going to beat me to it. So, yeah, it was absolute thrill to kind of try and do that train with myself. The other thing that I will say is that in terms of Golden Age influence is that I want my books to be sort of modern and fresh as well. So I sort of, my goal in both books, in Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone and in Everyone on the Train is Suspect, is to update the genre. One of the things that I tried to do was modern thrillers, I thought, across the board, were sort of they're really gritty, and they're quite violent often. So I wanted to sort of put the fun back into it. And like I said, that teen crime solving, that play fair thing, all that stuff that comes through the 1930s. And I thought, well, why don't I do that in a kind of modern way? And these are roller coaster thrillers, these are mysteries, they have those big reveals, but they're also fun, they're romps. And that's what they were doing in the 30s. And that's the biggest influence that I took as well. And that's why the characters in the book are so knowledgeable of the crime fiction that's come before them, so that they can play with the tropes as they see the tropes happening to them. And yes, I went on the GAN with my wife to research the book. It was absolutely incredible. I had to rewrite a fight scene because I realized the corridors were too narrow for the punch-up that I had planned. And the staff was very, very gracious, particularly when I asked to look at the kitchen to see if the meat freezer could be used to store a corpse. They were a little bit skeptical when I asked, and then I remembered I should tell them I'm writing a novel. That will probably help. So it's an amazing trip. It's the perfect setting for a holiday, and it's the perfect setting for a murder mystery.
I love that. We actually have a link that we put in the chat. And I don't know, we have a little bit of time. So Grace, do you want to play just like a couple of seconds of it? Because exactly what you're saying, Benjamin, it's like, it looks amazing. And now it's just where I want to be. But the hallways, the aisles are pretty tight. So anyway, we found this cool video, and you can look at it later. It's like 3 minutes long. We'll just show a couple seconds of it, but it gives you a sense of how opulent, beautiful, I mean, just luxurious. I mean, it's a luxury liner train. But Grace, can you play a sec of it? Is there sound, Grace?
You can't hear it? One sec. Yeah, share sound.
I can narrate over the top. I can do my best over that.
Sure.
If you want.
Go ahead. That's fine.
I think I got it.
I will say, I'll
go ahead.
I was just going to say that one of the fun things about using the train, and you'll see on the imagery, I think there's something that works really well with mystery fiction is what I call reverse opulence. So you want kind of a place that is really nice, and you want to put your characters there and have them do nasty things to each other that doesn't match with the place. So that's why, like, A Beautiful Hotel, the television series White Lotus, or the novel The Sanatorium, these are all formally resplendent, or even The Shining with the Overlook Hotel. these are kind of splendid locations that don't fit the actions that are happening with them, which makes them all the more interesting for those things to happen in them. So yeah, it was super great. One of the fun things is that Ernest takes his girlfriend, who he hopes that may become more during the trip, on this train. But as you'll see in the cabins, you have to sleep in bunk beds. So he's trying to have a romantic trip, and he's in this bunk bed with his, these fold out into bunk beds, and he's in a bunk bed with his girlfriend on the top and him on the bottom. And then a lot of fun in the different rooms. You know, could I do a murder in the cabin, which we're seeing now, or in the restaurant part, or in the bar cart? You know, can you go outside the train on the roof? You know, there's lots of fun things to explore there as well. So loads of fun.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It's not opulent, it's understated grandeur in a way. I think it's just so, it's just so beautiful, and I think that's it's to make it contemporary and to make it relatable with this setting. I think it's just great, and good for you for taking that ride and checking it out.
It's also oh, feel free to
nope,
shut me up if I'm talking too much.
Nope.
The train track was originally, it follows the route of the first kind of telephone line in Australia, so right through the middle, and it stopped halfway, and that's where they would relay the Morse code messages. So a little literary tidbit is that these group of writers are sending that message from Darwin to Adelaide. So that was a really fun kind of thing as well on the kind of literary end, to represent this kind of our first communication in Australia, being these writers traveling through that same pathway. And it just makes it, I mean, the whole thing just feels distinctly Australian as well. You know, I want to put that in my writing because we're a very unique country. We've got a lot of interesting spots, and my first novel, which is set during a snowstorm, I got a lot of messages from American readers saying, "Thank you for teaching me that it snows in Australia." I'm like, yeah, we got mountains, we got deserts, we got mountains, we got deadly animals, we got the lot. And so they all find a way in my book. And again, that again has a good place for all of that.
That's great. All right.
Toss it to Melissa. I wanted to talk a little bit about, obviously, the relationship between Paula and Flores is at the center of, you know, your novel. I was really blown away by how raw and honest and complex it was without being, you know, a caricature or stereotypical. And I was wondering if there was any particular, you know, mother-daughter relationships in the media or your own life, or, you know, your friends that inspired you when writing this.
Yeah, I mean, Paula in particular, I think, has a little bit of all of my tias. And I think that they would all in one way or another agree with some of Paula's opinions, but also be kind of like pearl clutching at some of her actions. So yeah, I mean, it's she really, I think, encompasses a lot of the, like, my aunts and their friends, and it was fun writing her. It was also, I mean, those are the women in their 60s that I see, and so I mean, they're fun, they're sexy, but also kind of like, oh, maybe not, you know, like I shouldn't be. And I don't know, I feel like I don't really see that in literature. So I wanted to write someone who could hang out with my aunts, you know, and do bingo night with them on Fridays, you know. And then Flores, I feel like I'm just surrounded by people who are like her. She's a little younger than me, but you know, everyone's got student loan debt, and they're all trying to climb out of it. And I don't know, I think that she's a little pessimistic about life, but she's just trying like day by day to like, you know, still make something out of what maybe she thinks were bad decisions and the, you know, but then when you put the two of those together, it I think it makes for a lot of fun, and also a lot of opportunity to sort of pick at how actually similar they are in many ways, even though they would probably never admit it to each other.
Yeah, I found that when reading the book. Flores is older than me, but I was like, she's so real that I felt like I knew her almost from like the get-go. She was just really, you know, wonderfully written. And I love what you said about wanting to write, you know, an older character that is fun and, like you said, a little bit sexy. And I had a really great time reading between the two. And I think that you did a great job of capturing like the feeling of like, you know, you are kind of similar to your mother. And I think as you age, it becomes a little more obvious and you're like, oh, everything I didn't really love about you is actually in me as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was very cool to hear. Virginia.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of questions now for the authors. Let's see. I will. Okay. There are questions and we don't want to spoil anything. So we'll be careful. Okay. There is a question here for Ben from Lillian Dabney, our librarian friend out in Seattle. And she says, Ben, do you find trains romantic, good fodder for a narrative? And then she saw the video and she said, oh, hallways really are narrow. And people are loving the video, which again, we said it's in the chat, so you can go back and watch it. It's pretty neat. So question number one from Lillian is, do you find trains romantic and good fodder for a narrative? And also wants to know what your plans are for your next novel.
Yeah, thanks, Lillian. Great question. I didn't find them romantic until I went on it. And then I was sort of like, oh, I see the appeal. There's a big contingent of people who just absolutely adore trains and they just know things about them. Like when you go on the train, people will be talking to you about how much fuel it uses. And I'll be like, I don't know, where's the bar? Like that's what I'm looking for. But they're sort of thinking, okay, what's the tonnage? What's the haulage? And then these are just hobbyists. And I really love finding a name for these people, which is ferroequinologist, which is equine as horse and ferrous meaning iron. So they're a fan of iron horses. And they're like train super fans. So people really, really do love it. In terms of fodder for a narrative, I mean, it sort of depends. I think it does depend on where the train is going, because you do only have sort of 4 rooms to work with. I will tell you, there's an illustration on the inside of the cover of the GAN, and I did add 2 carriages to the GAN that aren't on the real GAN because I just wanted somewhere more for people to go and how to use them in scenes, and I just wanted it for the narrative. So is it great fodder? Absolutely. But does it have its sort of constrictions, which are really fun to work within? Also, absolutely. My next book, I'm plotting it out now, but it'll be another one in what I'm calling the Everyone series. So it'll be everyone and then a location and then a twist on that location. And I won't say who will be back, but the surviving characters of everyone on this train as a suspect will be back. And I think it's going to have a heist element to it.
I love that you're calling it the Everyone series. That's awesome. We got asked what books inspired you while you were reading, while you were writing, whether it was a certain genre, what inspired you to write that particular genre. Melissa, if you want to start.
I honestly can't say that I was inspired by any particular book or genre. I was inspired by life, like what was going on around me and what I was really like missing at the time. But I I wasn't really doing a lot of reading. I tend not to read while I write. If I read anything, frankly, it's like comic books. So, because I'm a big comic book nerd, when I'm sort of in the writing state.
That is so interesting. I feel, yeah, I wonder if that would be distracting to read like some like heavy like novel while you're writing your own. That's so cool.
Yeah, but I think also in that at that particular time, it was just like a very, I think we all can kind of like relate to how intense it was, right? Especially living here in New York City. It was a very intense time, and it was there was only so much energy that I could afford to the different things that were calling to me. And as much as I wanted to reading usually is my refuge, but at that particular time, I really wanted to be working in an office, and I was stuck in my little room. Like, I'm like, I'm going to delve into this novel, and I'm going to try to like not listen to the sirens, and so I tended to just read, more visual things. That was kind of like what kept me reading, but in a way that felt a little lighter.
Yeah, no, I actually really get that. I surprisingly didn't do a lot of reading during quarantine. I found myself watching a lot of movies and things like that. So I totally understand.
I would love to know what comic books you like to read. I'm very intrigued.
Oh yeah, X-Men. Like I mean, and some of it is a little, some of it is whatever. Right now, the storyline is really good. But that is like my go-to. I love Rogue and Gambit. They're my favorite characters, so I read them.
Very cool. Hey.
Benjamin, what about you? Things you were reading while you were writing the novel?
Yeah, I'm the same as Melissa. I don't love reading while I'm writing because I don't want it to feed its way into, an influence or a tone or anything. So generally I sort of put things away while I'm in the midst of a book. But I wrote Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone during the pandemic, and the influence, as I said before, was sort of to do the opposing side of the really gritty, violent thrillers that were quite popular, and I just felt like, and I've written crime novels before here in Australia that were of the gritty kind, but I just felt like sitting in my room during the middle of a pandemic, I just didn't feel like I wanted to write anything mean. So I wanted to write something fun. The biggest influence on my writing is Stuart Turton, who his books are completely different in genre. Every book he writes is a different genre. But he's just such a fabulous risk taker. Whatever he wants to write, he writes. So, he's got crazy labyrinthine plots, extremely complicated books that he does with such a light touch and such cleverness. And the ideas that he chooses to pursue are so courageous, and he pulls them off. So when I was writing Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, what I did with that book was I thought, and this is going to sound pessimistic, but I thought the pandemic's happening. We don't know what's going to happen with book publishing or bookshops or whatever. I have the chance to write a book. I'm going to write the book that if I didn't write it, I will regret it for the rest of my life. And so what that meant was, every author has this. Melissa, I'm sure you've got it as well. The desk drawer or metaphorical desk drawer of ideas that you put away because they were too hard when you were sort of thinking through how to execute whatever book you're writing at the time. And I took all of those ideas that I thought were too hard and I put them into Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. And for those who've read it, the book plays with the fact that it's a book. I spoil the entire thing on the first page. I give you the page numbers that all the murders happen on, and then there's all these kind of puzzles that sort of go through it. And it was really difficult to write. And it's an idea I had 10 years ago, and I put it in the drawer and I said, I don't think I can do this, and I don't think anyone will publish it. But having, read Stuart Turton and seeing what that kind of courage could look like, I thought, I'm going to have it a go. The other influences, there's some fourth wall breaking in the book. Ernest is a very chatty narrator who knows there's music inside the pages of the book. So Jack Ford and the Scream films, the they do to horror in a really kind of metaphysical way, which is super fun, and I wanted to try and do that. And then, in terms of the cozy stuff, I absolutely adore Anthony Horowitz novels, Lucy Foley's mystery, Sophie Hannah, all that kind of stuff is just really, really great. So anyone who's doing that kind of stuff in a modern way, I find really exciting. So love reading all of that.
Okay, Melissa, we have a question from Stacy. She wants to know, do questions about why Paula and her husband came to New York come up? Does Flores know that story, or is there info from that part of her parents' past that comes into play in the novel?
No, I think she knows her parents' story. I think it's really, for Flores, it's really delving deeper into how that story and impacts her. But it doesn't, like the story itself is not like a focal point, I would say, in the novel.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right.
Okay, and I think we have, Lainey, there's a question for Ben.
Yes. Oh, Ben, do you mind saying the name of the person who influenced you one more time? Someone said they didn't get it in the chat, just so we.
Stuart Turton. He wrote a book which I think in the US is called The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
Oh yeah.
And he's got a new book coming out called The Last Murder at the End of the World, which I've read an early copy of and liked.
Great. Thanks for saying it one more time for us, though.
And Ben, I have a question from Kim. She says, do you feature your own family in your books? And if not, where did you find inspiration for all this craziness?
No, they're not really in the book, my family. I think I have a sort of tendency to write about brothers and sort of what a relationship between brothers looks like. And that's because I have an identical twin. And I think we have a very unique and close relationship that, that leads to some of the way I dissect how brothers interact in my book. The problem is that often one of the brothers, depending on the book, don't survive. So my twin is quite upset, in his words, that I keep killing him off. This isn't a spoiler for Train. There's no brothers in everyone on this train is a suspect. But he's told me that I need to stop killing off brother characters because I feel personally Freudianly victimized. But no one from my family is really in there. I will say that everything that happens between the authors in the book, even some of the not nice stuff, has happened to me, or I've been adjacent to those kind of conversations in green rooms and things, not necessarily with authors. I've worked across a whole bunch of range of disciplines as well, but they're all things that real people sort of say to each other. If you think, oh, that's a bit catty, it's something I've heard people say. It's the hell, it's something I've probably said to someone, so there is an element of truth to the essence of environments and characters, but no one's based on anyone's family or otherwise.
Yeah, I think, one of the questions I had for you was really just about this fun moment of having like a mini genre of mystery writers who work in publishing and write about writers being killed. And I was going to ask you to talk about the cast of characters. Of course, you've got the writers, but you've got the agents and fans. And so
it's popping up. It's a new genre. It really is. Once I finished this book, and then I see there's plenty of books coming where the leads are writers. I think it's such a mythic profession almost. People have this sort of perception of what it might be, and I think for a long time we were only treated to the sort of mid-2000s rom-com lead character. Works in publishing. Carrie Bradshaw has a apartment on the West Side. She writes feature articles, or those kind of unrealistic. I'm I'm a reader for a publisher. I just read all day. That's all my job is. And I think that kind of mythic perception of publishing was portrayed for a long time. And I think now I think this little mini genre, and it happens to be happening in the mystery genre, is that they were showing the kind of real side of it. It's heightened and it serves whichever plot we're telling. But there's a lot of insight in a lot of these books about how publishing works with more truth than I think we've seen before. And I think that really fascinates people. So yeah, I think it's taken off.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Just peeling it back and letting people know, and those conversations that you've heard or had, or as you say, been adjacent to in green rooms. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing you ring so true, because especially when with us, we've been entrenched in publishing for years, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to have this whole, somebody's, a peek inside the world, and also murder. I just have one last question. It kind of touches on this, what we're talking about. And it's from Lillian Dabney again, and she says she wants to know if some of the characters come from publishing and the writing world. And so, I mean, it's very interesting. I think this just comes up more and more. I think it's a fun look into this Agatha Christie-esque contemporary twist, and with publishing, writing, and agents and authors and fans. I just think it's so much fun what you've done here. And I mean, the questions are all sort of overlapping, so I think you've answered it all, but I just think it's obviously very fascinating, certainly to us and to librarians who are watching. So thank you for writing this book, because it's great fun.
I'll just add, just on the kind of the behind the scenes thing, it's very affectionate. It's more ribbing than I'm not a particularly aesthetic writer, so I'm not trying to do an expose here. But good natured ribbing is a little bit of a roast, I think, is always fun.
Right. I can't believe how the time has flown. Do we have any other questions for Melissa and or Ben?
I have one question for Melissa that I wanted to ask. Obviously, you are Peruvian, and that culture is a big part of the book. Is there one thing that you're like, I have to include this aspect of Peruvian culture in the book?
Yes, the Fiestas Patrias celebration in the park. That was a big one for me. It was a big part of my upbringing. So yeah, I would say that one.
Yeah, that was very fun to read about. Thank you. I was very, very curious.
I think we are at the hour. If we're all good. One more. Lainey says one more.
We have one that came in. I don't know if we have time for it, but says, Melissa, you said that Miss Paula reminds you of your tias. Does Paula have that kind of circle of friends as well?
She has a couple of friends, one in particular in the book that she's very close to, but no, she doesn't have bingo nights on Fridays like my aunts do. Again, she's kind of like, she, I think, is also a little bit on the feels a little bit on the outside because she's a widow. So it's like a way that she herself differentiates from a lot of other people, in a way that probably she shouldn't, but she does.
Yeah. Well, I think we've gotten to everything. This has been really interesting. Two very different books, both just equally enjoyable and page turning and informative and fun and twisty and just everything you want in a book. Everyone on this train is a suspect. Goes on sale January 2024. Library Reads votes are due December 1st, 2023. And you can download the eGalley on NetGalley and or Edelweiss. Benjamin, thank you so much for taking the time from Australia to talk to us about your book. And Grace, final words for Melissa's book?
Yeah, so Flores and Miss Paula is on sale December 5th, so only like 2 more months. And that means you have until November 1st to vote for Library Reads. And thank you for coming all the way from Greenpoint to to chat with us today. I feel like we're neighbors now. So thank you again. It was wonderful hearing from you.
Thank you. It was fun.
And I just wanted to jump in and say I got an email just now from Jill Shalvis, who says that she was ill tonight. She's so sad she couldn't be here, but she looks forward to hopefully doing something with us in the future. So stick around for that.
Great, great. We hope she gets better soon. And Ben, thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. And we'll see you all again soon. You've got all the links in there that we talked about at the top of the hour, and take good care, be well, and